Oh, look at that. Wow, look at that outfit.
How you doing, Gino?
Delroy.
Sir.
What, is this new?
Actually, yeah. So I just got this care package last night from them. They just sent me a ton of stuff to do a kind of like a little photo shoot with, just to promote, because we're doing fundraisers and stuff to raise money to get us to Israel. So.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about all of this, right?
Yeah, of course, of course.
Wow. So you just made the team.
Yep.
Right?
Yes, sir.
Well, how did all that happen? How did this all come about? Now, you're on the Jamaican team?
Jamaican national lacrosse team.
And how many kids from Nantucket?
Nantucket 5.
Is that unusual?
Yeah, just because, I mean, we're such a small place, you know, compared to everywhere else.
Yeah.
And the fact that we could have, the fact that we could have 5 guys from our little town go out, try out, you know what I mean, amongst 80, 70 some guys and all get picked, it's definitely like something special. You
Wow,
know?
that is fun. Unbelievable that happened. Did you have to try out in Jamaica?
No, we tried out, we had one tryout in Pennsylvania, and then the other one was, it was like a tryout / scrimmage, which was in New Jersey.
Yep.
And went to both of those, did my best, you know, put out the best I could.
Is this the first organized team for Jamaica?
This is their very first national team for the sport of lacrosse. I mean, obviously they've had national teams for the other sports, but yeah, for lacrosse, this is their very first.
Wow, that's so exciting. You're so now. Is it professional?
It's on the professional level. Yeah, it is. It's on the professional level. I mean, we have some professional players who play professional here in the States that are on our team. So, I mean, it's
really?
It's the highest level of lacrosse. Absolutely.
So some of these guys that got picked are national ranked players. I mean,
that have played. I mean, Hakeem Lekey, who's from here, who started playing
around.
Oh, sorry. Yep, we are in the vehicle. Hakeem Lekey, who's from here and started playing around the time I did, he played professionally, I think, for a year or 2 years. You know what I mean? And we have a guy on the team now, Gorgon, who plays professional right now. And so, like I said, we have a couple other people on the team who are professional players. So it's up there. It's definitely the highest level of lacrosse. I mean, it's definitely the highest level competition I've seen too in the many years I've been playing lacrosse. All
right. Well, we're going to come back to lacrosse in a second. But I want to know a little bit more about you and your story.
Myself.
How old are you? Jamaican?
I am Jamaican. I was born there.
So you were born there?
Born there. I moved here when I was 8.
8?
Yeah. Lived here on Nantucket for a year. I remember going to 4th grade. I was going to school here in 4th grade. Then ended up moving to Florida with my mom. We lived down there for a couple years. And that's really when I started getting into sports. This was when I moved down to Florida and started playing basketball.
Yep.
Love basketball. I mean, everyone who knows me knows basketball is my sport.
Right.
And started with basketball. Ended up moving back here to Nantucket the middle of my freshman year in high school. And
when you first moved here from Jamaica, was that a tough adjustment for you?
Yeah.
Why?
Just because, I mean, I didn't know anyone, and you had to learn, not really a new language, but the dialect is different, and you have to get used to that, and people operate a different way from here and there, you know?
Now, had there been the influx of Jamaican people that we now see here? I mean, you were one of the first ones to come here, or would you say no? I was a young kid.
I was going to say I was probably towards the back end of that period.
So there were a lot of Jamaican kids already.
So when I got here, I wouldn't say there was a ton, but there was a few.
A few. Okay.
I mean, and I have had family members who were here before me that lived here, and so when I got here, there wasn't many, but there were enough, you know.
Yeah.
And because in my graduating class, it's probably 10 of us, I think, in my graduating class. And I mean, and now that I'm seeing the kids that are graduating now, there's way more.
Oh yeah.
The numbers have definitely gone up significantly, but when I got here, it was, I mean, I feel like I said it was a good amount of us. And luckily, the ones that were here that I knew I had a lot of family members.
Yeah, so that was
here. So I mean, it was helpful, but I kind of just stuck to sports because that's where I was more comfortable.
Yeah.
That was my wheelhouse, you know. So.
And you learned that when you were in Florida, you said.
Because
what was it about Florida that was different from Was it just the age?
I don't even think it was the age. Honestly, sports for me was kind of the way I integrated myself into the American system. I mean, it definitely has taught me a lot. You know, when I just moved, especially when I moved from here to Florida, I didn't have a ton of friends. You know, I didn't really know anyone. And at the time, me and my mom were living with my grandma. And my grandmother actually bought me a basketball, and because she had a little park in her community, and it would just be me and the basketball. And I think that's where my love of basketball comes from, because before I had friends and all that, it literally was
that's what you did with
getting up every day.
you
was just playing basketball. Yeah, me alone by myself. You know what I mean? Going out, and I started learning how to make friends on a basketball court. You know what I mean? So most of my very first friends were guys that I met playing basketball. You know, and it kind of just went on from there. And I think that's like where my love for the sports, and not just basketball, but for sports grew.
So you came back at what age to Nantucket?
I came back to Nantucket when I was 15.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
what was that transition like, going from a Florida town full of sports, I'm assuming?
Yeah, no. Just
and back to Nantucket.
That was...
If you had your choice...
It was tough.
Do you think you would have been a better basketball player if you had stayed in Florida?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's not to knock anything that's going on here.
Of course.
But the biggest thing I realized between moving from Florida and coming back here was just the competition level. And down there, I mean, you have guys playing literally all day, all night. You know what I mean? I always bring it back to basketball, but me growing up down there, I could be at the basketball court from the minute I wake up to the minute I go to sleep, and there's gonna be someone there all day willing to play, and these guys are playing hard. So I mean, it's literally like your foot on the gas pedal, 100 miles per hour all day down there. And that's in every sport, I feel like, you know, football, basketball, all the sports down there. I mean, that's kind of the climate too. It's warm. Everybody has energy. So a lot of guys, and it's a lot tougher. I mean, you're competing a lot harder, and unlike up here, there's cuts down there, and you know what I mean, you have 20 guys fighting for one spot, which up here, there's less numbers, so it's less competitive, and you don't really have that drive to go as hard as you would down there. And that's one of the biggest things I noticed. And I've even fallen in that trap of getting complacent, you know what I mean, and thinking you don't really have to do anymore and not have to do it enough. But once you go back to the real world, that they snap you out of that real quick.
I bet.
Yep.
So when you came back, this complacency was there a little bit. Did you know you already had a talent and that you may take basketball to the next level?
When I just came back to Nantucket, basketball, at that point, basketball was definitely the biggest thing for me. Yeah. And
when did you start playing lacrosse?
I didn't start playing lacrosse until the end of my freshman year. Well, that spring freshman year, and obviously I didn't really know anything about it. And it's funny because I remember that day. It was actually me, Matt, and a few of us. We were just hanging out in the school, and Kevin, who's our assistant coach now on the national team, one of the assistant coaches, Kevin approached us in the hallway and was like, "Hey, have you guys ever played lacrosse before? Like, you want to come check it out?" And we were like, "Lacrosse?" Like, and it was funny because I always thought lacrosse was the same thing as Lacoste, the brand. So I was like, "Isn't that a thing with the gator? Like, what is that?" And he was like, "No." He brought us into the gym, and when he brought us into the gym, he had all the sticks just thrown out on the floor, and he was just like, "Pick one." You know what I mean? Pick whichever one you're comfortable with. And obviously, I see the big one, so I was just like, "Oh, this is great! Like, I could beat people up with this." You know, that was my thought. And he was like, "That's exactly what you're supposed to do with that." You know, and it's funny because every sport I've ever played, I realized that I tend to like to play defense more than offense. So it was just funny that in lacrosse, he brought us in the gym, and I pick up a stick and I pick up a defensive pole. You know, like I had no thought into it, not knowing what I was doing, but that's kind of where I just moved to, and since then I've always played defense a crazy amount.
For those people who don't really understand lacrosse, what is it about lacrosse that a football or any sport, what is it that really could hook them into being?
I feel like it, just like any other sport, there's that competitiveness. I mean, and if you're an athlete, you'd love to compete.
Yeah.
You know, so there's definitely the competitiveness about it. A sport that requires skill, strength, speed. It's physical. It's everything. You know?
How do you compare it to basketball?
All the components. I try not to compare the two, you know, because I love basketball and I'll forever love basketball, to be honest with you. And it's funny now because out of the 5 of us that has gotten chosen to play on the team, I look at it as I'm the only one that's not really a lacrosse player. I don't look at myself as a lacrosse player. If you ask me, I'm a basketball player.
Yeah.
I'm an athlete. Let's say that.
Yeah.
Basketball is a sport I tend to do the most, but lacrosse, football are all sports that I also enjoy and I play. And I mean, I'm the type of person, if I'm gonna put my effort into something, I'm gonna give it 100%.